There is a new crazy Star Wars theory making the rounds on the internet. I want to talk about that theory and then talk about how one of my very crazy and controversial theories could actually tie perfectly into this. What's up, everybody? It's Josh. Welcome back to the channel. Smash that like button like your powers have doubled since you last met it.
Good.
And let's get right into this video. Okay, so Star Wars Theory recently made a video talking about this crazy theory about Episode 9, and this theory is actually not his. It was sent to him by somebody claiming to have insider information that there is this elaborate plan by Lucasfilm and Disney to continue Palpatine and Rey and their story together past Episode 9 in some really crazy ways. I highly recommend you go check out the full video on Star Wars Theory's channel. It's really good, well edited with the music and everything. So it's like a really good watch, but I'll sort of summarize the theory here for, those that aren't going to go click another video or whatever. Now, the basic idea here is that Rey, upon killing Palpatine at the end of Episode 9, actually did sort of fulfill what Palpatine wanted, and therefore his spirit and all of the Sith spirits have actually transferred into Rey. Now, there's some really interesting things inside the theory that point to the possibility of this happening, like weird stuff where Palpatine reveals earlier in the film that he has been every voice that Ben Solo has heard in his head, like every single voice, right? And so that could possibly explain how Palpatine was able to get into Rey's head and pretend to be all of the Jedi. This theory also proposes that the reason we didn't see any of the Force ghosts there is because that's not actually those Jedi speaking, that it is actually Palpatine speaking to Rey, tricking her into fulfilling that prophecy, into fulfilling what Palpatine wanted, and to have all the spirits go into her body. And the crazy thing to me is that this was actually a thread picked up on by a lot of the retractors for Episode 9, like a lot of people that didn't like Episode 9 and thought that it literally ruined Star Wars. They talked about how, yeah, it's the Palpatine Saga, and Rey melts Palpatine's face, doing exactly what he wanted to do, and now Palpatine has possessed Rey, and the body of Rey is now possessed by the mortal enemy of the Skywalkers, and all of this stuff is like a sick, twisted joke. Like, this is literally something that people were talking about in sort of a joking, sort of a memeing, just crapping on the Rise of Skywalker sort of way. Well, this theory actually is being presented in a way that, like, no, that's exactly what happened, and that's actually exactly the plan. Now, let me be clear. I don't think that's actually the plan. I think this person is just having a go at Star Wars theory and just presenting some interesting ideas. However, that is not to say that they couldn't take this idea and move forward with it. Technically, it still works. So what happened here does leave the door open for Palpatine's spirit to actually still be inside Rey. But let's just wait a second on that, because I actually want to now pause on that theory and then talk quickly about the theory that I have about Rey having Force birth twins on Tatooine. Okay, so this is a theory I came up with. I'll link it somewhere up here so you can check it out if you have not. But the gist of it is this: Rey was pregnant at the end of the Rise of Skywalker, and there's a myriad of reasons as to why I believe this and why I think this theory is really sound, but it explains a bunch of things that left me confused after the Rise of Skywalker. Mainly, why does she even go to Tatooine in the first place? Well, if she was pregnant with Force birth or sort of cosmic Force conceived twins, that would make sense as to why she goes to Tatooine anyways. The power of the dyad is said to have the power of life itself. Kylo obviously brings Rey back to life. Now, in my theory, I propose that he actually knew that she had already possibly been pregnant and was bringing not just her back to life, but the two children as well, which is what actually cost him all of his life force. That at a different moment in time, Kylo and Rey possibly had a Force birth, maybe when she heals him on the second Death Star. But this idea of the dyad is so powerful and so kind of unknown to Star Wars that it's not outside the realm of possibility that they did actually conceive a child cosmically through that power, which would be similar to the way in which Anakin was originally Force birthed. This theory also makes it make sense for me as to why she would even take the name Skywalker. I don't really see a reason why she would take the name Skywalker, except because she's there now raising two Force birth children that she wants to raise as Skywalkers where the Skywalkers had been living, at least, Luke and all of that, right? And I also love the symbolism of taking those two sabers and not burying them forever, but burying them for a time for when the twins would come, for when the twins would be there, and then having those sabers for the eventual Skywalker twins. And the really wild thing about this Palpatine being inside of Rey thing is that it could actually fit perfectly into the theory I have about the twins. So here's the way I see this going down. In this scenario, Palpatine would still be alive somewhere inside of Rey. His spirit would be in her in some way, but he would need time, and he wouldn't immediately want to reveal himself, as she would just destroy him or take some kind of action or do something bad, okay? And so what I would do right away is have Rey raising her children, raising the Force-birthed children, teaching them how to be Jedi. And slowly, you start to see that Palpatine is kind of revealing himself, showing this dark side, not to Rey, but to the children. He's actually trying to corrupt the next generation of Skywalkers, these Force-birthed twins, which would be very powerful beings with the Force. Rey, upon realizing that this is what's happening, would leave. She would leave her children on Tatooine, and then she would go to Ahch-To. Just like Luke Skywalker before her, she would take herself off the board and sort of just go there to just cut herself off from the Force as much as she can and keep the spirit of Palpatine and all of the Sith inside of her and imprisoned for as long as she could. And her leaving would, of course, hurt and confuse the two children. And then we would be on this same old cycle that we always go on with the Skywalkers, right? There'll be one that sort of goes to the light and one that sort of goes to the dark, right? I feel like the children would be split, and there might even be some old First Order or Sith supporter that seeks out the children of Rey a long time after she goes away to Ahch-To and converts that child to the dark side. And then that person would take that dark side child to Ahch-To to finally reconfront their mother. And I think the way this would happen, mythologically speaking, is that this person, this child of Rey and Ben Solo, this Force birth that's part Palpatine, part Skywalker, would strike Rey down and then have the spirit of Palpatine and all of the power of all of the ancient Sith funnel into them, creating a new threat to the galaxy. And I don't know if they would do like, oh, this is actually just Palpatine now has possessed this kid, or if Palpatine is sort of this weird like Sith Force ghost just manipulating this kid would be the way that they could go. But to me, like when I think of what the twin theory means, which is just a continuation of that line, continuing the Skywalker line, continuing the Palpatine line, and then doing this thing again where, for me, even before this new theory, I always thought it would be really compelling if the children would have to be faced with the fact later on in life that they're not actually pure Skywalkers. They've thought of themselves as Skywalkers. They thought they were Skywalkers this whole time, and then they finally realize, oh, they're part Palpatine as well, and that their mother is actually a Palpatine, not even really a Skywalker, which would cause, all this chaos and probably force one of them to go to the dark side. Is that same old song and dance, but honestly, Star Wars is cyclical. That's what George said. It's like poetry, right? And so to me, this made the most sense and explained a lot of different things. This current theory that's going on out there with Palpatine, I really don't buy it as being this real overarching plan. However, the way it is set up, it could totally happen in the future. And to be honest with you, I would love it, mostly because it would be so wild. And there's also just a lot of awesome opportunity for little nods back to the old films. Even Rey going back to Ahch-To, just staying there, cutting herself off from the Force, and the vacuum that creates in the galaxy, her children maybe turning and then eventually finding her and killing her, much like Ben Solo did to his own father. Like, there's just a lot of parallels here. I think it would be really interesting. But that is it, folks. That is the new theory that's going on the internet, that Palpatine won and possessed Rey. And this video has also explained how my theory of the Force-birthed twins and how that could actually perfectly fit into this new Palpatine is not gone theory. And the last thing I'll leave you with is this. In the novelization For the Rise of Skywalker, there is hints that Palpatine could return again. And I think that if they're going to do that, what better way than to have him come back with Rey via the events that happened in The Rise of Skywalker. I think it would be dope. But of course, let us know what you think about that in the comments section below. And now let's shout out Chris Pesetto. Indeed, it was the Hosnian system that the First Order blew up in The Force Awakens. So shout out to you, Chris, and now let's ask another nerd card question before we get out of here. I want to know, what was the name of the Sith Master said to help Kylo Ren in the Duel of the Fates script? That's right, that Colin Trevorrow version of Episode 9 would have seen a new Sith Master or a dark side master training Kylo Ren. What was the name of that character in that script? Answer that question in the comment section below. If you absolutely need more nerdy content in your life, click or tap over there to watch some more of our content, or come on by our live streaming channel where we live stream every day, Monday through Friday, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like this video if you liked it, or if you want to take your support to the next level and join the list of amazing people you see listed below, check out our Patreon for some behind-the-scenes content. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.